later. And what you should be able to see here is HeinOnline. This is a specific group. This happens to be HeinOnline academic collection, which many of you subscribe to. Some of you don't subscribe to HeinOnline at all, but we have HeinOnline academic here. And we also have what we call Indigenous Peoples of the Americas: History, Culture, and Law. Before we forget, I'm going to give you my email right here. Just look in the search screen here. I'm going to write it, sroses@wshein.com. So if you have any questions after we get off in a half hour, you can email me anytime at sroses@wshein.com. Also, you should know that we're on all the various social media, from everything from Facebook to Twitter to Instagram, etc. I'm also going to put my colleague's email here. He is also online now. So thogie@wshein.com. And then finally, Roxanne Marmion @wshein.com. So I will clear this for you. Everyone write down your particular email that you want to. I'm going to put this away. And of course, you can always get that online as well. If, in case you didn't know this, we are recording, and we will be able to send you a recording of the presentation. So HeinOnline Academic, as you know, has many different collections of a multidisciplinary nature, everything from books, journals, to even things like government documents of various sorts, as well as the core collection. Many of you subscribe to the core collection. Some of you are law firms and subscribe to the core collection as well. Some of you are government accounts and subscribe to the core collection. All of those different collections of HeinOnline databases include books. In the case of the legal classics part, we have over 18,000 monographs and treatises. Journals, over 3,000 full-text journals now in HeinOnline. We started with less than 30. Now here we are in 2022. We have well over 3,000 journals. And of course, every single journal on HeinOnline, a lot of people know our law journal library, every single journal on HeinOnline starts with the very first issue of a publication. So even when you may have other sources for some of those journals, they may not go all the way to issue number one. We always go to issue number one. And then you have a plethora of government documents. What type of government documents? Everything from the Federal Register and CFR, etc., US Code, statutes at large. And then we have some specialty collections or add-ons that you are welcome to add. One of those collections is this Indigenous Peoples of the Americas. We used to call it the American Indian Law Collection. If some of you have saw it when it was under that name, we decided a couple of years back to change it to Indigenous Peoples in the Americas. So I will show you anytime you're looking for what is in a given collection. And here we have Indigenous Peoples of the Americas: History, Culture, and Law. You can click on the I here. And not only is this going to give you a description of what's here, but it's so you can see that with nearly 3,900 titles and more than 2.3 million total pages dedicated to Indigenous American life and law, this library includes an expansive archive of treaties, federal statutes, regulations, federal case law, tribal codes, constitutions, and jurisprudence. It also features the rare compilations edited by Felix S. Cohen that have never been, prior to this collection, or never before accessible on an online basis. Now, actually, we have over 4,000 titles in Indigenous Peoples. Right here, because you click the I, you'll notice you can get a list. If you have a trial or if you subscribe to Indigenous Peoples, you can get a list of anytime you want what the current list of titles are in that collection. And this applies to any HeinOnline collection, but here you can see it for Indigenous Peoples. If you want a CSV of the contents, you can click here. And if you want it in a KBART text format, you can click here as well. So I am going to, I do want people to be aware that if you subscribe to one of the HeinOnline core collections and don't get Indigenous Peoples, you still have access to some lots of Indigenous Peoples material. So I'm going to first give you an example of that. So if you subscribe to HeinOnline, one of the core collections, or HeinOnline Academic, you already have the ability to search a lot of Indigenous materials. And I'm just going to show you right here. I'm going to do a basic search. And not only in HeinOnline allow you to do search on Indigenous Peoples of the US and the Americas, But in addition, you can do a search on something like the indigenous tribes of Japan, the Ainu people, and I'm going to put in Ainu and culture. And we're going to look for documents that have information in HeinOnline, in the core collection, not even looking at indigenous peoples yet, that show you material dealing with this specific indigenous tribe of Japan. And here you can see we have 81 results. Notice here we have comparative issues, recent policy developments to promote and protect Ainu culture in Japan. We have revitalization of Ainu culture and protection of their right in culture, learning from Norwegian Sami experiences, the Sami being a Norwegian indigenous tribe. So here, this is actually a comparative view of indigenous peoples using material from the Sami people to answer some questions about the Ainu people of Japan. And let's go on further here, looking at another document. Here is Act for the Promotion of Ainu Culture and Dissemination of Knowledge Regarding the Ainu. So not only do we have, as I said, in HeinOnline, indigenous peoples, meaning tribes, meaning the Inuit of Alaska, et cetera, but even tribes of other countries. But we decided to really zero in on additional material on the indigenous peoples of the Americas. And that's when we decided to put together this indigenous peoples add-on. So that is really the crux, the heart of what I want to show you today, in addition to taking that small detour to show you that even in the HeinOnline core collection, there's a lot on indigenous peoples for you to research already. But let me show you what indigenous peoples is adding to the mix here, so you really know why this is a really good investment. And in fact, it's an extra good investment because everyone who's attending this can get a 15% discount off the first year of the collection, or just be aware of that. And we can give you the price after we get off, et cetera. And you're entitled to a 15% discount for attending this webinar because we do have a promotion. I'm going into the Indigenous Peoples collection. And you can see, you'll see some very neat tabs here that show the kind of diversity of material that's in here. So we have all titles. This allows you to browse all the titles in this add-on collection. Thousands and thousands of titles that are not in the main HeinOnline core collection. Legislative history specific to indigenous peoples in the United States. So if we were to look, well, what is in this legislative histories? If we were to look for that, we can see, we can find various legislative histories. And this is for the purpose of finding out the legislative intent. What was Congress intending? Why did they pass this legislation? What were the different versions of the bill? How was the bill changed over time? What did various senators and Congress people say about the bill at the time it was being passed? So here you could click here and go to the public law number of the specific bill, because that's also, of course, part of HeinOnline, of the public laws. But if you wanted to go right to this legislative history, in this case, prepared by Arnold and Porter, you could click here. And also, I'm sure you could find Arnold Palmer's if you looked on HeinOnline. There are so many different things on HeinOnline. I'm sure the name Arnold Palmer would be there, but that, I digress. This is a specific legislative history by Arnold and Porter from 1958. And you could click on this and open it up very easily and get the full text. In fact, I'll show you that. I'm going to click here. And now we have the actual legislative history that was prepared on that topic. Now, if we want to go back to to indigenous peoples of the Americas, and by the way, that was the act to determine the rights of interest of the Navajo tribe. And so that was a specific legislative history on that topic. Okay, let's go here. Now, you may know that the Code of Federal Regulations is a big part of what is in the HeinOnline core collection. If you don't have HeinOnline, well, that's a reason in itself to get HeinOnline or get a trial. By the way, if you want to have a trial of the main HeinOnline core collection or HeinOnline Academic or the HeinOnline Public Library package, you can get a 6-month free trial of that whenever you want if you do not currently subscribe to HeinOnline. But specifically in the Indigenous Peoples collection, where we have for you the CFR Title 25. And what is the CFR 25? That is the specific part of the Code of Federal Regulations that deals with Indigenous peoples. Now, we not only have the 2021 edition of it, but notice we have the prior editions. Why is that? Because we want you to also be able to do historic research, because you are going to also want to know, if you're dealing with something from the past, what the law was in terms of federal regulations at the time of the event, not just what it is now. So that is why we have for you all the prior editions of this, not just the 2021 edition of the CFR Title 25. So too, US Code Title 25, dealing with Indigenous peoples, the US Code. Let's take a look at that. Here we have not only the 2018 edition, but notice the prior editions of the US Code Title 25, where you can research the law, the statutory law of Indigenous peoples. Then, as you know, and as you're used to at HeinOnline, we have a plethora of serials that allow you to research things, everything from here, from the American Indian Newsletter, and you can scroll through here, seeing the different periodicals that are available in the Indigenous peoples collection. And then this here in this next tab is a tab that really, some of this is very hard to get. And a lot of people, when they're using Indigenous peoples, and why they add Indigenous peoples to their HeinOnline collection, is because from time to time, not every day maybe, but from time to time, they need the constitutions or acts and bylaws of specific tribes. And not only tribes in one area of the country, but tribes from all different parts of the country. Here you can see the first example here is the Choctaw Nation, act relating to the school system of the Choctaw Nation. But you can go through A to Z here, finding the different constitutions, acts, and bylaws that you may be interested in. This is invaluable. Once again, full text material, not just an index, not just a little summary, the full text of these things, because HeinOnline is all about full text material, and it's all about historic material as well as current material. Then, of course, there are GAO reports throughout HeinOnline's core collection, but here specifically, we have highlighted for you some materials dealing with GAO reports, dealing with Indigenous peoples. As you can see, here's an annual increased claims of employees of the Navajo area. That's just one of the many GAO reports, 314 GAO reports that are here in the Indigenous peoples. So too, we have CRS reports dealing specifically with Indigenous peoples, all at your fingertips so that you can use it while you're researching Indigenous peoples. Now, we have various sources for congressional hearings, both old and new in HeinOnline, but specifically in Indigenous peoples are ones, almost 1,500 hearings dealing with Indigenous peoples. So these are full text congressional hearings dealing with topics that apply to the various tribes in the United States. Indian tribal codes, you would go right here to this tab and you can browse by tribe, which makes it very convenient, or you can browse by edition. So you want to see a historic version of something perhaps, or different versions, you look at the edition. You want to see a specific tribe for perhaps Hopi or Choctaw Nation, Pequot, etc. You can go to the specific tribe. Now, you might know that we take a great deal of steps to follow various laws, for example, model laws. So too with model tribal laws. Here's the model tribal probate code for at your fingertips whenever you want it. Now, we have, as you know, in the many of the different core collections of HeinOnline, we have treaties and agreements of the United States with various other foreign nations. But here is the various tribal treaties with the various Indigenous nations of the United States. So here is where you would go for Indigenous peoples treaties. I'm just going to click on that. And you can see, you can put in a keyword, specific issues. You're looking for tribal land. You're looking for a specific treaty number, the tribe, the short title. You can search by treaty description, date, or even subject. So this is invaluable if you're doing Indigenous research. You can see you can do a search, and you can even do a Venn diagram search. We're going to get into that when I show you searching on this. You're going to see Venn diagram search. Supreme Court briefs. You may know that we have in our, for example, in our Women and the Law collection, we have Supreme Court briefs, for example, on some of the cases that Ruth Bader Ginsburg brought before the US Supreme Court dealing with women's rights when she was an attorney. Well, in this collection, Indigenous Peoples, we have Supreme Court briefs that specifically, and they're full text, specifically are dealing with Indigenous peoples in the United States. Then we have treaty-related publications, various indices that help you navigate treaties. Treaties are not always the easiest thing to research, but with all the tools we have between this treaty search guide here and the treaty-related publications, it does become something that's much easier to research than you could do before. We have other related works because we want you to find other works that are related that are not in these main tabs. We have some bibliographies for you so you know where to go for other sources of materials. Our editors have emphasized certain scholarly articles that we want you to see, so you can go to those in the tabs here. And then, like we have in so many collections, we have a LibGuide that you're welcome to take and put on your website and use. We love it when you use, this is an Indigenous Peoples of the Americas History and Culture of Law LibGuide that you're welcome to use. Notice you can browse the database. You can get, this shows you how to browse the database. It shows you how to get tips and tricks. There's even a very short video in there in the tips and tricks that should give you a good overview whenever you want on Indigenous peoples. Blog posts, I will show you that as well, that we have many blog posts dealing with all topics, but even also dealing with Indigenous peoples. And then we have help resources. What are some of our help resources? We have many videos. We have a HeinOnline YouTube channel. If you go to Google, YouTube, and HeinOnline, you can see a whole plethora of videos. Or if you want to go and chat us, we have a chat available. I will show you that feature as well. I mean, I will try to remember at the end to show you that chat feature. And so that's just some of the things. Now I'm going to take you back to this Indigenous peoples resources. I'm going to take you back to HeinOnline. Remember, whenever you want to go into the HeinOnline website, heinonline.org, you can see, you can even Google it if you forgot, and it's right there. Boom. Now, here I am. I'm in HeinOnline looking at all the different collections. I want to look at Indigenous peoples. I want to look at Indigenous peoples and show you a basic search. So I'm going to show you right here. I'm going to put in a search for self-determination. And why don't we say Indigenous? Okay, so you can see we have quite a few results. Now, so there's 1,794 results to this basic full text search. Now, we have these facets on the left that help you instantly pick and choose what you exactly want to look at. For example, if you want to narrow down the date, you can narrow down the date of these many results. And so if I want to look at, say, 2016 to date, now I'm going to narrow that down. It's going to be far fewer results, only 303 results. And then maybe you want to specify a specific document type. You can say, I want to look at congressional hearings, or I want to look at the US Code, or I want to look at serials, or maybe GAO reports, et cetera, or Supreme Court briefs. You can look at all of those different options. You can specify if you want a specific state highlighted. For example, if you're looking for a document that has to mention Alaska, click here, you'll go right, you'll have documents that mention Alaska or New Mexico, et cetera. Or you just want it to be from the United States, you could click here. So you have lots of options. You could actually specify a specific title within here. So you're no longer researching everything, but just a specific title. You could also narrow things down. So for example, it has to mention the Bureau of Indian Affairs, or it has to mention the Department of Interior, or it has to mention US Congress. You can choose all of those different options to narrow your search, specific individuals, et cetera. If you wanted it to mention Felix Cohen, you could specify his name, et cetera. So let's take a look. We're going to open up this specific document from the American Indian Law Journal, another inappropriate F word, fiduciary doctrine, and the Crown Indigenous relationship in Canada. Now notice we do focus on United States, but we say and the Americas, Indigenous peoples and the Americas, and so that's why you also have material related to Canada in here as well. And in this case, right from the American Indian Law Journal. And I'm going to open it up. So now we're at the actual documents, the full text document. Now, let's say you're looking for this. And by the way, you can kind of navigate around this document and go to the PDF of different parts of the document. Let's say you wanted to really zero in on this article that you found on the Indigenous Peoples collection. You wanted to zero in on it. We have this feature called More Like This. It's also in the other various collections in HeinOnline, but let's take a look and click on More Like This. And now it's going to pick the most interesting words. The computer, when we use More Like This, we're asking the computer to find like articles that without us having to do a whole new search, a whole new query search, it's going to find like articles and it's going to highlight certain things. So if the term crown is in here, like for example, if we're talking about Canada where they use the term crown, it being a Commonwealth nation or a former Commonwealth nation, you could click, you could put this here. If that's not so important to your search, you could lower this. Crown Indigenous, you could lower this, but Indigenous and Indigenous peoples might be more important, and you could raise that. And you could also specify specific terms. For example, you might want to specify Inuit or something like that. You would write it here, and you could also specify any combination of years, like you could put 2010 to 2022. So this already gave you finer results, but now you're even making them finer in this More Like This situation. So just be aware of that. And now you're narrowing in even more to get the exact kind of Indigenous rights materials you're looking for. Now I want to show you some other neat aspect of searching in HeinOnline, and that is the Venn diagram feature. I'm going to specifically do it in the Indigenous peoples, just to show you you're going to ask, how do you get to the Venn diagram feature? It's in advanced search. So you can do that, like when you're in the Law Journal Library, you can go to advanced search, or when you're in Indigenous peoples, go to advanced search. And you see here, it says Venn diagram search. Okay, now we're in Venn diagram search. It can search 4 terms at the same time, 3 terms. If you put 4 terms in, it makes it a little bit slower than if you had 3 terms. I am going to search tribal land and Pequot, which I believe is a Connecticut tribe related to Foxwoods. And I'm going to put in gambling. And heck, I'm going to put in a 4th term. I'm going to put in gaming. Okay, now we're going to look at this, and what the Venn diagram feature does is it gives you the lay of the land of these materials in HeinOnline. Now, it might take a bit longer because I made the faulty choice of giving it 4 terms when I could have easily shown you 2 or 3 terms, but let's see. Oh, very nice. My internet is working well today. Okay, so here we have, this is how all of these have appeared in the Indigenous Peoples collection. So this circle is all the results for the term gambling. This circle is all the results for the term gaming. This smaller circle is Pequot. The smaller circle here is tribal land. Now, we really don't care about any of these individual circles. Rather, this is all about an and search. This is all about finding documents that have all of these terms. Sure, we could say, hey, what are the results that have the term gambling and Pequot in them? And that would just be this area. Or what are the results that have gambling and tribal land? And that would just be this area here. So you can pick and choose. Now, what we want is the overlap between all of these things. And so the overlap between all of those things is a much smaller result and very relevant to our search. 213 results. Notice when we're talking about the term gambling, 4,599 results. But when we're just narrowing it to results that have all of those terms in it, you get a much smaller pool of material. And that's really what we're looking for. We're looking to fine tune our research. So you can see here, this overlap is 362 results. And so if we want to look at one of the results, This is the federal labor law, and then Meshantucket Pequot Union organizing at Foxwoods Casino from American Indian Law Review. Let's open it up. Okay, so right here you have this. Now notice you can, all this functionality for some of you who are new to HeinOnline, you can download right here, you can print, you can email this to even someone who doesn't have any relationship to HeinOnline. They don't even have a trial. You could send them a temporary link right here by clicking here. If you want to get the text of this page, for example, if you're using a screen reader, if you have special needs and you're using a screen reader, you can change this to just the regular text. Now you can toggle it back to the PDF. Now, let's say you want a permanent link to this page. We have a permalink tool. You can use this for a syllabus. If you're academic, you could have this for your website. It'll always link to this material right here. That is the permalink. Now, if you want to search within a search, for example, if I wanted to search the term Foxwoods within this article and see everywhere it goes, you could click here and that would tell you you can search within a search. Now, you want to change the page of a given search, you can go here to page 516, 517, etc. And then we have a tool called Pathfinder. And Pathfinder is, what we've done is we've organized all our documents on HeinOnline by subject, category, topic. And so we created a tool called Pathfinder. And actually, where it lives now is in the Law Journal Library. So I'm going to depart Indigenous peoples, and I'm going to show you the feature in the Law Journal Library. So those of you who subscribe or are considering a trial will see this feature on Pathfinder. So we'll just wait a few seconds. And here we are. This is where Pathfinder subjects are listed. So if you wanted to do Indigenous people search within HeinOnline in general, not just the Indigenous Peoples collection, but throughout HeinOnline, including the Law Journal Library, you can get a lay of the land and see how everything's organized. You'll notice we have the subjects organized by applied sciences, humanities, industries, natural and formal sciences. You can see how multidisciplinary HeinOnline is, in addition to law, political science, and government. And you've noticed we have social sciences here. So social sciences, within that, there's a category called race, ethnicity, and culture. And if we were to open up race, ethnicity, and culture, we will notice that there is a whole collection here, a whole subject topic here on Indigenous peoples. And if we want to start going right to results on Indigenous peoples, you could click here and it would take you there. Now, I want to show you one other aspect of this, because in Pathfinder, there's also a graphic representation of this same analysis. Okay, and that is, you just click on the graphical feature. So if we're in Pathfinder Subjects and you go to graphical, and you can see the various subjects right here. Let's put this in view for you. And right here within social sciences are these various topics. Notice the first one here is race, ethnicity, and culture. And we click here and it takes you right to various options, one of which is Indigenous peoples. And so this is going to allow you, this Pathfinder designation is going to allow you to look up Indigenous peoples, not only in the specific Indigenous peoples collection, but also even in the Law Journal Library, because we have organized Pathfinder in that way. And so right here is the Indigenous peoples section, if you will, or the classification of documents on HeinOnline. Notice there are 5,285 items dealing with Indigenous peoples in the Law Journal Library alone. Okay, all of this said, I just want to show you, we do have like 1 minute left, and I do want to see if we have any questions. So I haven't read the chat at all. Does anyone have any questions? Did everyone get the email, our emails to email us? I mentioned that there's a chat line, especially if you're in the United States or Canada. It's 8:30 to 6 Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 6 Monday through Friday Eastern time. You can live chat us, and this includes not only the librarians, but your patrons in general who are using HeinOnline. They can live chat us. So just be aware of that feature. Also be aware of, if you were to click on help, you can go right to our HeinOnline blog. I recommend everyone subscribe to the HeinOnline blog. I recommend anyone who doesn't have HeinOnline get a free 6-month trial to HeinOnline. I recommend that anyone who doesn't have Indigenous peoples either add Indigenous peoples with the 15% off or have a trial of Indigenous peoples. Just contact us for that. Here's where you get a user guide to HeinOnline. Here's where you would get to our LibGuides. Here is where you would contact us, not only myself and Tim Hoagie, but various other members of HeinOnline. And we do love feedback. Don't forget to give us positive or negative feedback. All of that said, thank you so much. I really realize we've gone 1 minute over. Great talking to you all. Thank you so much for your time and have a great day. And we'll see you next month. Just contact us, by the way, if you'd like a trial to anything, including Indigenous peoples. We really appreciate it. Everyone have a nice day.